You have better instincts than any officer in the Lannister army.
That's like saying I have a bigger cock than anyone in the Unsullied army.
You're iron-born, Theon. I know you've had some bad years.
As far as I understand, you're a Snow, and Lady Sandra is a Bolton. Who's she Lannister? I've heard conflicting reports.
Good thing we're friends, or we'd be fucking you in the ass right now.
You're not clever like you Southerners. We say we'll do something. We do it. I'm going to eat your dead mama, and I'm going to eat your dead papa.
Nothing on the Iron Islands has an ass like that. Doesn't interest you anymore.
Good thing we're friends, or we'd be fucking you in the ass right now. For fuck's sake.
So he's your most trusted advisor now?
Since it's my last night ashore for a long while, I'm gonna go fuck the tits off this one.
Good thing we're friends, or we'd be fucking you in the ass right now.
Gotta get away from the thread, bro. Do we have to review this one? Yeah, it's pretty rough. Do you think it's worse than Littlefinger giving Sansa to Ramsay? Yeah, it may be. Do you think it's worse than having all of the houses of the North, the Iron Isles, and Dorne being fine with kinslaying rulers? Yeah, I think it's worse. Do you think it's worse than teleporting sand snakes, killing off House Martell in order to honor House Martell? Okay, maybe it's not that bad. Well, our episode begins with fake Cersei remembering that she wants revenge against Sansa. If only real Cersei had that kind of memory. Well, she has been occupied. Anyway, Lady Crane finds Arya dying of her stab wounds. Hey Robb Stark, how do you feel about stab wounds? Not good. They usually kill you immediately. And Talisa? Don't get them. And the boy that Arya stabbed? They often kill you immediately. And Doran? Don't get them. They often kill you immediately. And Robert? Har, if it doesn't kill you immediately, you'll get an infection. And Khal Drogo? Yes, infection very likely, very bad. And the Hound? I understand that if any more words come out of your cunt mouth, I'm gonna have to eat every fucking chicken in this room. And Grey Worm? This one thinks recovery time very long. And Barristan? Don't get stabbed. It's the Middle Ages. Everything is filthy. So don't fall into a canal, say. No, that would kill you. Well, Arya just happens to get better than Maester Healing from Lady Crane. You see, Lady Crane used to stitch up her boyfriends after stabbing them. Of course, I don't know how she would stop the infection. Neither do I. This seemed dumb. She was in piss water. We also find out that Lady Crane was perhaps not the best person to save. She likes to stab boyfriends and disfigure actresses. Next, we have this vitally important scene where members of the Brotherhood Without Banners are teaching each other to kiss. And then one tries to shove his finger in another one's butthole. It's a very sad scene, really. We know nothing about this gentleman. All we know is he wanted to know how to kiss. But the Hound beheads him. We have no idea if he had anything to do with that sept. And this poor scared young man. He doesn't look like much of a fighter. I hope you find kisses in the afterlife. Meanwhile, in Meereen, things are descending rapidly towards theocracy, and Tyrion is absolutely delighted with it. Oh, Tyrion, if only you could talk to your sister right now. So are the Sons of the Harpy defeated? I guess so. The streets are safe enough for the most famous dwarf in the city/world to walk them. But weren't the slavers funding the Sons of the Harpy? Well, we aren't sure, but if they are, this scene doesn't make any sense. The slavers remain hostile, so they have no reason to defund the Sons of the Harpy. Maybe all of the Sons of the Harpy converted. I guess so. Just as Varys arrived right after Daenerys left, Varys leaves right before Daenerys arrives. Varys equals Daenerys confirmed! But in all seriousness, this is awfully suspicious. We know in the book that Varys and Illyrio are not Daenerys supporters. They're Aegon supporters, so I wonder what show Varys is up to here. All healed, gotta get away. Meanwhile, back in the other Lannister theocracy, the Faith Militant has arrived to rearrest Cersei. And for perhaps the first time in our story, the Kingsguard have successfully defended a member of the royal family. That's Kingsguard 1, Rebels, Traitors, Boars, Littlefingers, Dwarves, and Sand Snakes 9. So in our next scene, Brienne and Pod find the Lannister army. though it seems likely they completely missed the Vale army. And then we get this vitally important scene where Bronn and Pod think about whether or not Brienne and Jaime are fucking. Bronn admits that he would fuck Brienne. Jeez, everyone wants to fuck Brienne these days. And then in our next scene, Jaime tells Brienne that whole oath-keeping thing was kind of bullshit. I'm going to assume that secretly Jaime has a conflicted internal dialogue. After all, at this point he has to look tough. And Brienne tells Jaime that she wants the Blackfish to help Sansa in her cause to retake Winterfell. Sansa will take her position as Lady of Winterfell, once again forgetting that Rickon exists. Poor Rickon, the guy just can't get a break. And then Brienne says, no, take this priceless sword back. And Jaime says, no, you keep this priceless sword. By the way, we know of 5 Valyrian steel weapons in A Game of Thrones. 3 of them, Longclaw, Oathkeeper, and that dagger, are just given away willy-nilly. Heartsbane is just easily stolen off a wall, and Widow's Wail is just missing. Does anyone value these things? To be fair, Sweet Robin, maybe the reason we haven't seen Widow's Wail is because it's in a vault, and Randall Tarley may hunt Sam down. We don't know yet. Anyway, Brienne gets over to the Blackfish and requests that he use his men to help take Winterfell, and in a moment of extreme logic, he tells her no. Sorry, Brienne, you've done a lot of traveling in the past 3 years, and have done only one useful thing. The thing about the Blackfish turning down Brienne is that it's logical, but it's still unsatisfying. Brienne went on a huge journey for nothing, and here we have a kind of similar situation in King's Landing. The High Sparrow has convinced Tommen to ban trials by combat. This is actually pretty logical on 2 fronts. First, Cersei is bulletproof with the Mountain. But second, Cersei is accused of both incest and regicide. If Cersei is found guilty of incest, Tommen ceases to be king. A trial by Septon would allow the Septons to separate out the verdicts. Cersei can be found innocent of incest and guilty of regicide. However, we've been waiting for this trial by combat for years. It's a bit of a letdown. Anyway, Qyburn tells Cersei that an old rumor is true. What's that rumor? Well, it's probably that there's wildfire all over the city. I bet we'll have some Q&A questions about that. Anyway, next we get this vitally important scene between Tyrion, Grey Worm, and Missandei. Tyrion says that he always wanted to have his own vineyard with a wine called Imp's Delight. I'm sure 1,000 fans have now begun production on that. Anyway, Tyrion begins to tell a joke about how he walked into a brothel with a honeycomb and a jackass. The joke is pretty dirty, so it's a pretty good thing that they were interrupted. Wait a minute, you know this joke? I do, but it's really filthy. Tell it! Maybe in a future video. Yunkai and Astapor have begun their attacks, but weirdly only by sea. Meanwhile in the Riverlands, Jaime needs to convince Edmure to give up Riverrun. It's an incredibly well-acted scene, and so we ignore the fact that the conversation doesn't really make any sense. Edmure, I'll treat you well if you surrender. How do you sleep at night? I like your sister. She reminds me of my sister, who I love. I'll be really mean to you if you don't surrender. Well, the conversation works, and so Edmure is admitted into the castle and surrenders it. And perhaps Blackfish is thinking he shouldn't have been so much of a dick in Season 3. Brienne wants the Blackfish to come with them, but then the Blackfish says that Brienne will serve Sansa much better than he can. As if those things were mutually exclusive. Anyway, the Blackfish ends up pretty dishonored, dying off screen to maybe Tully or maybe Lannister men, we don't even know. And Brienne is able to row away because I guess Jaime is the only one of 8,000 men who's on the wall. Man, his men really are incompetent. Meanwhile in Meereen, things are not going well for our protagonists. And then they hear a noise outside. What could it be? Oh, it's just Daenerys returning. Where did she park her dragon? Where did she take a shower and get her hair done? She's been on the road for weeks. A runway model on a 4-hour first-class flight wouldn't look that put together. Daenerys has been traveling through the desert, sleeping in yurts, wiping her butt with rocks, that sort of thing. Meanwhile in the Riverlands, for anyone that was hoping for an intriguing reason for why the Brotherhood without banners was killing people, there isn't one. It was just some random renegades. And so they bargain about how many men the Hound can kill, and then they decide to head north to fight some White Walkers. I'm not sure why they didn't do this 2 years ago. And then we're back with the ridiculous Arya plot. You know, I read about a dozen theories on what happened to Arya last episode. Maybe Jaqen was Arya. Maybe Syria was Arya. Maybe the waif is Arya. Maybe Arya has a split personality. Maybe it's all a dream. Maybe there's a fart bladder filled with pig's blood. Every single theory I read is better than what we saw on screen. Essentially, Arya is really, really stupid, really, really lucky, and really, really invincible. She gallivants around Braavos when she knows that people are after her. She somehow survives a stabbing, and then the one person she knows in the city happens to be a self-taught medical expert. And then we have even more bullshit. The waif arrives, kills Lady Crane, and then doesn't kill Arya immediately. The waif instead talks to Arya as if the waif is some sort of Bond villain. And then... Are you fucking kidding me? No human being could do that after being stabbed the day before. And no one could run like that having been stabbed the day before. And no, you're not just sliding underneath stuff either. Oh god, fuck you guys. Finally, the show recognizes that Arya is injured, and of course the one person she knows who can stitch her up is dead. So Arya is bleeding to death for the second time in 2 days. Then the waif finds Arya in her room and closes the door for some reason. What was Arya's plan if the waif didn't close the door? Maybe the waif was raised in a barn. Anyway, Arya cuts a candle in half, and for some reason the candle goes out. And then in the next scene, Arya is alive and well at the House of Black and White talking to Jaqen. Fine, let's accept that Arya was walking around like a dumbass after previously hiding. And let's accept that she survived a stabbing and jumping into filthy water. And let's accept that by coincidence she had a miraculous friend with medical abilities. And let's accept that she ran, jumped, and fought while severely injured. Fine, we still last saw Arya with busted stitches, bleeding to death. Why is she here, alive, healed, and willing to take on Jaqen Hagar? It's hard to imagine anything so ridiculous. Still running away from the three-eyed bro. Despite failing at everything the House of Black and White ever asked her to do, Jaqen tells her that finally she is no one. You have lined a hamster cage with a Torah, and after a month, paper-machéed it into a yarmulke. Finally, you are a Jew. You have beaten to death 40 cows with a statue of Hanuman, and recreated the epic of Ramayana with cows' entrails. Finally, you are a Hindu. You have eaten 53 pounds of pork and are keeping a pig's snout as a magical pocket watch that, when red, tells you that history is wrong and needs to be put back on track, but when green, tells you that you've succeeded and it's on to your next adventure through time. Finally, you are a Muslim. And so Arya says that she's Arya Stark of Winterfell and that she's going home. No, you're not. You're gonna die of sepsis. And then they have the nerve to have the episode end with Jaqen and a cheesy grin. See you guys in a couple days at the serious Q&A. Put Q&A : before your questions in the comments below.